Let's take a look at our tail of the tape. What stands out to you?
Looking at the reach of Alameda, but the experience obviously is going to favor Nery. Alameda has only been in one 10-round fight of his career, while Nery has been in 10 rounds or more in his last 15 fights. So that is a massive difference in experience for Nery compared to Alameda. They're pretty much virtually the same when you look at the tail of the tape. Weight, a little bit of a better reach for Alameda, but other than that, 2 years age difference, height 1 inch, so not much to see there. I think the bigger factor is going to be the experience of Nery over Alameda.
Well, you pointed out that stat when it comes to what Luis Nery brings to the table. The fact that Alameda has only been in one scheduled 10-rounder. Nery has been 10 rounds or more in his last 15 fights. Alameda has been as long as 9 rounds, but never 10, and this is a 12-round fight. So talk about seeing and baptism by fire. We're going to see if Alameda can compete at this level against someone who brings punches and bunches and has a high knockout percentage in Luis Nery.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we're going to see, Ray. Alameda, he's certainly taking a step up in class. He really hasn't fought a guy like Nery. He can really put himself on the map with the victory tonight.
Let's take a look at what Aaron Alameda had to say, Miguel.
There's no doubt Luis Nery is a powerful puncher. We have to see how he comes out, if he's going to be coming out boxing or if he's going to try to look for the knockout immediately. We have a strategy for that day for him, and either way he comes out strong or boxing, we're ready for him.
Meantime, as you go ahead and we look at Luis Nery on the opposite side.
My goal is to always work hard and give it my all. I think I've made the transition well to 122 pounds, and who knows, maybe I can do well and win world title belts at 126 pounds. First is to unify, but I have to defeat Alameda on Saturday. Whether it's for the vacant title or if Alameda had the title, it's still a world title fight. My goal is to win and win impressively.
Getting ready for our co-main event. This is for a vacant, the vacant WBC Super Bantamweight Championship.
All right, Jimmy Lennon's getting in position here. We're getting close.
The power of Nery is going to be interesting in this fight as well. As we all know, he's probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest 122-pounder in this division. Such a brutal puncher. He even forced Yamanaka, who is one of the greatest Asian fighters of recent years, to never fight again after his fight with Nery. That just shows, and that's that he was knocked out twice by Nery.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. And you know, Yamanaka, McJoe Arroyo as well hasn't fought since he fought Luis Nery. When Luis Nery hits you, it is like he puts you out, and there is no coming back from it, as he's displayed in those two opponents. And for Aaron Alameda,
well,
now here's
we are
Jimmy
ready
Lennon
for our
Jr.
vacant Super Bantamweight World Title attraction. And now making his way to the ring, the undefeated world ranked contender from Nogales, Sonora, Mexico, Aaron Alameda.
And here is Aaron Alameda making his way into the ring. Alameda from Nogales, Mexico, never been down in his career. And for Aaron Alameda, he was in the World Series of Boxing. He didn't do too well. He only won once in 8 or 9 fights. He is 16 months older than Luis Nery, but he has less experience, but now he gets his grand opportunity here tonight.
And now making his way to the blue corner from Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico, here is the former Bantamweight champion of the world, Luis Pantera Nery.
And here is Luis Nery, who is now trained under the guidance of Eddie Reynoso, one of the best trainers in all of boxing. Nery claims he is extremely focused and determined, feels so much more at home here in the super bantamweight division, an 80% knockout percentage. It is his first fight this year, and he's looking to make a big statement against Aaron Alameda, and he said he wants Brandon Figueroa if he's successful here tonight.
No one has denied Luis Nery's talent. I think a lot of the criticism against Nery is the fact that he's had a lot of weight issues making weight in his fights. He's been over in a couple of fights. His last fight was canceled because he was 1 pound over. He just wouldn't lose the weight. So I think it's more of the discipline side of the equation because his talent is undeniable, right?
Well, no question about it. He has all the makings of being a young star, especially here at 122. And with Luis Nery, he was a world champion early at 118, missed the weight, had a lot of issues in Japan, came to PBC, on the PBC banner, and now here's Jimmy
Ladies
Lennon Jr.
and gentlemen, from the Mohegan Sun Arena here in Uncasville, Connecticut, Premier Boxing Champions presents a vacant world title attraction brought to you by Lions Only Promotions, TGB Promotions, and Showtime. We are sanctioned by the WBC, the president Mauricio Suleiman, the supervisor is Michael George. Introducing our judges, scoring from ringside, from West Oneida, New York, Don Ackerman, from Hebron, Connecticut, Tom Carasone, and from Orangeburg, New York, Julie Letterman. And we introduce our referee in charge of the action. He'll be giving instructions after the introductions, Michael Ortega. All right, fans, here we go. 12 rounds of boxing scheduled for the vacant WBC Super Bantamweight Championship of the World. Introducing to you first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing blue trunks with gold trim, hailing from Nogales, Sonora, Mexico. He weighed in at 121 1/2 pounds. He is undefeated in his campaign in the ring with a record of 25 wins, no losses, 13 wins coming by way of knockout. Here is the undefeated WBC number 6 ranked world contender, the undefeated Aaron Alameda. His opponent across the ring, fighting out of the blue corner in this vacant world title attraction, enters the ring wearing gold trunks with black trim, fighting out of his home of Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. His weight, 121 1/2 pounds. He also is undefeated in his campaign with a record of 30 wins, no losses, 24 big wins coming by way of knockout. Currently ranked the WBC number 1 super bantamweight contender. Tonight seeking his 12th consecutive knockout win. Here is the former WBC bantamweight champion of the world, introducing the hard-hitting and undefeated Luis Pantera Nery. And once again, a referee in charge. Now to give instructions is Michael Ortega.
Okay, get ready with the referee.
Michael Ortega, referee in charge.
Buena suerte a los dos. Dame una pelea buena, limpia. Gracias.
For Luis Nery, he has an advantage as 4 of his last 7 opponents have been southpaws. Alameda hasn't fought a southpaw in 4 years. He's moving up, but he has fought above the 118-pound limit in 11 of 30 bouts, Miguel. Both men are southpaws. Buckle your seatbelts. Nery likes to put away his opponents early. We'll see if Alameda can withstand the power of Luis Nery.
Alameda said it. Will Nery look for the knockout early, or is he going to kind of wait and box with Alameda? And he said he has a strategy for both, but it's easy to say that before you step into the ring. It's hard to do once you feel the power of Nery.
I mean, he totally changes how you think inside that ring when he connects upon you, Miguel, and you are absolutely so correct. Look what he did to Payano. Look what he did to Shinsuke Yamanaka, who is one of the most decorated Japanese champions in recent memory. And look what he did to McJoe Arroyo.
That left is deadly of Nery. Really can attack you from so many different angles.
Nice right hook by Luis Nery.
And like you said, even though Alameda's undefeated, he's taken a step up in class. This is a fight. This is a proven fight. Are you worthy of being in the top contention with names like Nery and Figueroa and
Angelo Leo and Ray Vargas as well? Jab by both. We'll see if Aaron Alameda can graduate to this stage. Nery is no stranger to fighting on a global platform like this. For Alameda, we'll see how he responds. Good right to the body. Luis Nery from Tijuana. Notable champions Eric Morales, Antonio Margarito, just to name a few. Something very special in that border town of Tijuana, right across from San Diego. Under a minute left here in the first.
Alameda connected on a nice jab. That's one way to utilize your distance and his reach that he has on Nery. Keep the jab popping.
There's a right hook to the body by Nery. Good stiff jab. No, Alameda doesn't seem overwhelmed, at least in the first round, Miguel.
No, he doesn't. He seems very calm, cool, collected, and that's what you want against a guy like Nery. You don't want the moment to be too big for you. So far, Alameda's looking pretty solid.
Just getting started here in what should be a tremendous 12-round fight. It's Luis Nery.
Good jab by Alameda. That's one thing with Alameda. He is remaining focused on using his jab. We'll see if that gives Nery any issues. To the second we go.
I gotta get in. I gotta get in. Pásame el agua. Ya. Está nomás tratando de mantener a distancia y que quiere pasar con un upper cuando entres o con un recto de izquierda.
Okay. Why don't you use your left?
Es condición. Pero necesito que tires un poco más. Okay. Ya, no tiene por el lado.
Use your jab.
That left hand straight.
Ya. Okay. Falta la izquierda un poco más. Entonces ya la izquierda, okay.
Well, Arnulfo Bravo was the first guy at age 17 to defeat Floyd Mayweather Jr. in the amateurs. Both guys were only 17 years old. And I think that might have been one of the last times that Mayweather ever lost in the amateurs.
That was the only time to beat him.
Yeah, literally.
In his career.
Well, Alameda has a very good coach, does Arnulfo Bravo, who is sort of an unknown quantity, but that is something that I don't think anyone can say. But right now into the second, this one's scheduled for 12. Luis Nery, feeling out process between the two in that first round, Miguel.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I think we kind of expected that. I don't think even though Nery possesses that power, he usually allows his power to show up through the rhythm of the fight. Depending on how the fight's going to go, I don't think he chases a knockout typically in his fights. Now, if it's there, he'll take it, but he's going to wait for his opening.
We do have natural right-handers like
Good stiff
Alameda,
jab by Alameda. I'm impressed by his fundamentals when it comes to using his jab. Good head movements, feints as well. Now Nery tries to crowd him.
But Alameda looks to stick the jab.
Right hook to the body by Luis Nery.
I'm not saying that will be the difference, Ray, but sometimes it's just that simple. Utilizing your jab, keeping a tight defense in order to give yourself a chance to win the fight. I'm not saying it will win you the fight, but it gives you a chance. If you do those things correctly and sharply, you give yourselves a shot.
Well, look at the jab for Jamal Charlo earlier tonight. I mean, that was such a big weapon for him against Sergey Derevyanchenko. But all camps from what people were saying are that Luis Nery has evolved and grown so much. He used to train under Freddie Roach, now he's with Eddie Reynoso, but people were just breathing and exalting Luis Nery as how much he's grown and evolved working with Eddie Reynoso, who has obviously Canelo Alvarez and now has Andy Ruiz. I mean, Eddie Reynoso is becoming one of the preeminent trainers in boxing today.
Oh, he certainly is, Ray. I mean, and he's extremely talented, as we've all seen, you know, what he's been able to do with Canelo and develop him and allow the evolution of Canelo to be one of the top pound for pound guys in the world. And now we see a guy like Andy Ruiz, who, you know, was a former heavyweight champion and has all the talent in the world, and he's decided to go with Reynoso. And we've even seen some of the younger guys in Reynoso's camp, you know, being able to make names for themselves. So it's a good move by Nery, and, you know, it just shows the talent level of Nery and Reynoso if he can kind of hone that in and really develop him into a world champion.
And Jason Rosario getting ready as he will put 2 of his world titles on the line. Unification, just the 8th time in history that this has happened, only the 2nd time when the winner takes home 3 world titles. Jason Rosario, known as the Banana. The reason why he has that nickname, he says that eating bananas gives him his punching power. But he has to deal with that man, the WBC Super Welterweight Champion of the World, led by trainer Derek James, also the trainer of Errol Spence Jr. Tell you what, watching Jermell Charlo train last Tuesday in his home gym in Houston, I felt like I was watching Clubber Lang train in Rocky 3. That is how intense Jermell Charlo was.
It's no surprise, I mean, with both Charlos, you know, those guys just have such a different tenacity.
And desire. I mean, they come in and they know that it is the hurting business.
They want to destroy you. They're not friends with you. They're not smiling with you before the fight. They're not shaking hands. They are all business.
But afterwards, if you gain their respect, like what Derevyanchenko did with Charlo, hey, look, they're just prize fighters. They want to prove that they are the absolute best.
Yep.
And Luis Nery wants to prove that he's the best here at 122. He's got to be able to defeat, though, Aaron Alameda in our co-main event of this, our 2nd card.
Yeah, Nery did a lot of talking in regards to, you know, he wants Figueroa after this, but you don't want to get into that situation as a fighter that you're looking past who's standing in front of you. And hopefully for Nery's sake, he is not doing that with Alameda, because so far Alameda's fighting a decent fight.
He hasn't really been tagged by anything significant by Nery, which honestly is, at least in the past few fights, is foreign territory, because Nery, it takes him maybe a round and a half to get going, and then he's like the Tasmanian double, and he sort of envelops you in his tornado. But right now, Alameda is holding his ground. Good jab by Luis Nery. Just over the halfway mark of the 3rd.
Again, Alameda's doing a great job at just continuing to put that jab out there.
I mentioned tempo. This tempo favors Alameda because you don't want to get into a firefight with Luis Nery. That's not going to serve you well. And now Nery's coming forward, trying to cut the distance off. But if you're Aaron Alameda, you've got to keep fighting at this deliberate pace and hoping that Nery almost lulls himself to sleep, but doesn't want to throw many punches and bunches and put together combinations.
Yeah, if you're Alameda, you'll stand there, but you don't want to take too many of those exchanges because all it takes is one for Nery. And you want to continue to use your distance, stay on the outside, and not allow Nery to dart in and be able to use his leverage on him.
I think that Nery, without question, respects the jab of Alameda, and also Alameda's a big 122-pounder. I would be curious to see what he weighed in at because he seems to be the bigger of the two out of Nery. He's got very wide shoulders. He's got a big upper body.
Alameda again, pot shot him, but scoring with the effective punches.
Alameda is maintaining very good discipline, along with showcasing some defense.
Let's go to Steve Farley.
Through 3 we are.
One minute apart. What they did during 9 months of 2016 when they became the first set of and nailed twin brothers to win the world title in the same weight. Now, of course, they are champions of separate, different weight classes. Jamel had two more titles at night. There have been 2 other sets of brothers, twin brothers, who have won the world title. At the same time, in different divisions, KFC Galaxy, KFC one of the greatest.
Here is Eddie
Empieza a
Reynoso.
tumbar los hombros, te bájale lo que te sale. Los golpes a los hombros, porque me estás queriendo meter todo arriba y te está cubriendo, te está pegando los uno por aquí y aquí a los hombros, Dale, y después arriba.
There is Jermell Charlo getting ready for his super welterweight unification matchup coming up next in our second main event. Well, we just heard a little bit of a small tidbit of what Eddie Reynoso told Aaron Alameda. I only heard a small little snippet. What he was saying is, he's covering up high, so I want you to go low. So that's the instruction that Eddie Reynoso told Luis Nery.
That's how you get inside that defense is, obviously Alameda's protecting against the big shot knockout. But if you start to dig into the body, and we've seen Nery knock out guys with shots to the body, knocked out Payano with a shot to the body. So it's possible, and then you give another thing to think about for Alameda.
I think if you are Luis Nery, you want to start to pick up the pace, and Eddie Reynoso was urging on Nery, like, okay, come on, let's pick up the pace. First couple rounds, feeling out process, but now let's go. And we're seeing evidence of that right now from Luis Nery.
Yeah, he's really starting to dig into the body now, and then he's able to open up upstairs.
This is the Luis Nery that we thought we would see, a little more elusive, explosive, works off of angles, likes to set up his power shots.
And if you're Alameda, you had to expect some adjustments to be made. Now it's time for you to make some adjustments of your own. Continue, the jab is working, so you don't want to get rid of that, but at the same time, you also want to not allow Nery. It seems like Nery is just, he realizes that he has an opening and he's just going to try to find it and figure it out. But you also got to have Nery think about something defensively, attacking him and give him something to think about. It's not just all him, it's all offense,
Well, Nery's starting to come forward a little bit more, as you pointed it out, Miguel, and I think he's starting to cut off the ring. He's starting to get closer, and he is ripping away upon Aaron Alameda little by little. It's almost like chipping away at Alameda, and if you allow someone like Luis Nery to gain confidence, then, oh boy, that is not a good thing whatsoever.
No, it isn't, and it hasn't been a good thing for any of his opponents.
And he's undefeated at 30-0. World champion, only lost the title on the scale, for that matter. As we approach the 30-second mark here in the fourth. Greatly appreciate you joining us wherever you are around the world. Greatly appreciate of this big night of boxing that we are bringing you into your homes. Some entertaining prize fighter. Nice straight left there by Alameda. Well, you asked about if he could give Nery something to think about. There you go.
Yeah, he needs more of that. He needs to put Nery on his back foot. That's how you stop knockout artists and power punchers. You got to force them to fight off their back foot.
When we look ahead to the
Let's take a look at Luis Nery, his last 5 matchups. The knockout over Juan Carlos Payano in Las Vegas, undercard of Pacquiao Thurman, then the undercard of Spence and Garcia at AT&T Stadium in front of nearly 50,000 fans. 4th round stoppage. Victories over Renson Robles, Jason Kanoe, and Shinsuke Yamanaka. Nery missed weight. The fight went forward. Yamanaka hasn't fought since March 1st of 2018. So that's the last 5 fights for Luis Nery. As we enter,
right here, you're seeing Reynoso and Nery. That, you know, that just shows the type of trainer Reynoso is. You know, they were standing and they were almost having like a little mini practice session right there in between the rounds.
He wants to prove he is the real deal.
coming up on round number 5. This one is scheduled for 12. Luis Nery with an 80% knockout percentage. Aaron Alameda, 25-0, both men undefeated. Nery from Tijuana in Mexico. Alameda from Nogales, Sonora, Mexico. Both of them living in border towns in Mexico, or from border towns in Mexico. You know, Aaron Alameda, though, is giving a pretty good account of himself because, you know, we looked at Payano and Miguel Arroyo, 2 world-class fighters, and Alameda has proven that, hey, you know what, at least through 4 rounds, I belong at this stage.
Yeah. He's certainly showing he does belong in the ring. Now, as this fight goes on, if he can continue to stay in the fight, then you start to think, how can I win this fight now? Like, what can I do to put some rounds together and become a threat to kind of steal this one from the favorite in Nery?
Well, what I'm going to be curious to see if it gets to the 10th round, how Alameda's conditioning is, because he's never been past the 9th round. This is, you know, he will enter foreign territory if he goes 10, and especially supremely foreign territory if he goes the full 12.
That was a good combination right there by Alameda. Hit a 1-2 straight down Main Street against Nery.
Looking forward to him appearing on the show and in this spot, of course.
We'll see if Luis Nery, though. I think Nery might, you know, he's being active, but I think he might be a bit confused to a degree at times, Miguel, because he's waiting and he's hesitant. And this is the Luis Nery that I'm not used to seeing. He just got sprayed with the straight left as well from Alameda.
Yeah, it seems like Alameda's become more of a difficult equation than what Nery's used to. Hasn't really figured him out. He's still trying to get the timing down. There hasn't been many openings. Alameda's playing very good defense against Nery, so there hasn't been many big openings for that big shot for Nery.
Under a minute left here in the 5th round between Luis Nery and Aaron Alameda. Nery's got a little bit, you know, just some slight bruises on his forehead. It goes to the body of Alameda. There's a straight left. Now Nery coming forward.
That's what his trainer Reynoso let him know. You know, you got to start at the body. That's how you're able to get in on a guy with great defense like Alameda.
There's a nice straight left by Alameda.
Here in the final seconds of the 5th.
Final moments of the 5th.
Blue corner here.
No le dejes la iniciativa, güey. Toma aire. Tú no lo quieres. Toquecito. No quiero que le dé la iniciativa, güey. Simón. trata de estarlo bloqueando y moviéndome la cintura. Cuando ves que vaya para atrás, él no se sabe contragolpear cuando se va
He doesn't know how to
y aquí fuerte,
box
aquí
on the inside.
a los hombros y levántalo, ¿vale? Bloqueando y contragolpeando. Hay que fintar cuando entres. Vamos, cerradito. ¿Cómo ves? Sí, va.
Luis Nery's corner, Eddie Reynoso. He was the 2019 trainer
You
of the
heard
year.
Eddie Reynoso, Ray, let him know you got to get on the inside. You can't really fight you on the inside. And Nery hasn't really done that enough throughout this fight. We'll see if he's able to take that advice from his trainer.
Well, the key is to get on the inside, and Nery hasn't been able to get on the inside much against Alameda. Alameda is using his jab well, holding his ground. He's not getting bowled over by the aggression by Nery. He's making Nery think he's landing some significant straight lefts that are enough and have enough power behind them to keep Nery at bay. You know, Aaron Alameda is an unknown quantity because he hasn't fought a high level of opposition, but he is proving thus far that not only does he belong, but he can potentially win this fight.
Yeah, he's fought a fantastic fight so far. And sometimes, you know, as a guy on the come up with undefeated records, eventually the great ones all started somewhere. Where you're thrown into that big fight that you're the underdog in, and you need to be a favorite. You need to put up that type of performance that really catapults you into that upper echelon in your division. You know, we saw it with Floyd Mayweather was there at one point. Canelo has been there at another point.
Floyd Mayweather was there against, he was there against Gennaro Hernandez, and he went ahead and defeated Gennaro Hernandez. One that stands out to me is when Danny Garcia knocked out Amir Khan back, I believe, in 2012. People thought Danny Garcia, young prospect, young contender, but Amir Khan was, at the time, really making a statement, and then, you know, Danny Garcia put him away in the 4th round. Yep. So yeah, you mentioned everyone's always there. And at some point or another, could this very well be Aaron Alameda's night?
That's a question, but Nery now with an uptick in his offense.
Nery now, though, doubling up on his jab.
A little more here in the 6th.
The fact that this is just strictly a boxing match favors Alameda. If it was a fight and more of a toe-to-toe affair, it favors Nery. Nery needs to get this fight back at his tempo and at his pace, because at this deliberate pace and one shot at a time, maintaining your distance, it favors Aaron Alameda.
Yeah, it certainly does, and it's showing so far throughout this fight. Nery's had flashes where he's able to explode on Alameda, but it hasn't been enough. It hasn't been clean enough shots either.
Half of this 12-round.
Well, we are 50% of the way done for this WBC Super Bantamweight Championship matchup.
It is a family affair.
And there is Jermell Charlo with his brother Jamal, who has his sweatshirt on. And there, Jamal next to Derek James, the trainer of Jermell Charlo. One thing, they are individuals, they're their own men, but at the end of the day, they're brothers, and they love each other, and they support one another, and they feed off each other's energy.
Yeah, they certainly do, and that's one of the things, you know, being a brother, it doesn't stop there. Even though Jamal won and he's happy and he, you know, made a statement in the middleweight division, you can tell, even in his post-fight interview, he said, you know, the night's not over. Like, I can't,
yeah, exactly.
I'm happy I won, but I'm still, you know, worried. I'm still stressed because he's got his brother to think about. So even though he won, it means just as much to him to see his brother win as well.
They both told me last week they're more nervous when their brother fights than what they are when they're fighting. Well, now we're in the second half of the fight between Aaron Alameda and Luis Nery, and I gotta say, could there be an upset brewing here tonight as Aaron Alameda looking to surprise Luis Nery?
Yeah, Nery's got to find a way to get on the inside, rip some shots to the body. I don't think he's done enough going inside to the body like his trainer would like him to. A lot of that credit is to Alameda and his defense right there. There's some really nice shots from Nery.
Now Nery's having some offense. We'll see if he can put continuous offense together. Right hook to the body. Reynoso continues to urge on Nery. Get on the inside, attack the body, attack the body. He's been saying that the past 3 or 4 rounds.
It hasn't been enough. And it's there. He just needs to continue to rip inside.
You are scoring the fight. You're watching the score. I just wonder.
But even though Alameda is boxing well, I think when it comes to the work rate standpoint, you got to look at the fact that Luis Nery is the one bringing the fight to Aaron Alameda, and the punch output, as we are at the midway point of the 7th, favors Luis Nery.
Right.
Another good jab from Alameda. Alameda's just been consistent so far.
There's a right hook, right on the jaw as Alameda now tasted some of the power of Luis Nery. We'll see if Nery can go on the offensive now. Rips to the body, does Nery.
Under a minute left. Round 7, and
Nery just wants to
explode. More aggressive, and here comes
almost just doesn't know where to explode. Now has had such good defense.
Under a minute to go, but here comes Luis Nery. This is what we thought we were going to see. The action and the power punching out of Luis Nery. I wonder though if this is a new Luis Nery, one that wants to focus more on boxing instead of being the reckless headhunter that he used to be. I mean, could it be that Eddie Reynoso has refined Luis Nery?
Yeah, it very well could be. You know, it's hard as a fighter. You're not really, unless you're Deontay Wilder, you're not really going to knock out everyone that you face. And you need to continue to add levels to your game. And we've seen that with another protege of Reynoso, with Canelo, how he's added levels to his game from where he just started out when he was obviously a champion. He's still a champion, but we've seen as he's progressed in his career, the evolution of Canelo. And I think that might be what you're seeing with Nery.
Let's take a look at the last 5 fights for Aaron Alameda. A win over Jordan Escobar, victory over Braylor, Tehran, Salvador Juarez, Edgar Lozano, Juan Jimenez, all those unknown quantities. But so far, Alameda, look, he is giving a very good account of himself.
He certainly is. And is he winning these rounds? I don't know. I don't know what the judges are looking at. Nery has certainly been a little bit more active, and I think the surprising part is the fact that Nery is usually dominant in his fights, and he hasn't been dominant tonight. But maybe in the judges' eyes, he could still be up, you know,
by a considerable margin.
Exactly.
But again, maybe it's the fact that we have such high expectations, or those as watching Luis Nery when someone goes and is used to steamrolling opponents, when that isn't happening as with ease, or he's not able to get off the combinations that he's used to. We kind of wonder, like, okay, well, you know, maybe he does look human in many aspects.
Similar to what we saw with Daniel Roman.
Absolutely.
In the last fight.
Yeah, Roman got the victory, 116-112 over Juan Carlos Payano. Still think that was a closer fight than what 116-112, but no problem with Roman getting that W.
Sneak in the jab.
You know, Brandon Figueroa is watching this one, has to be thinking, all right, I mean, is this the Luis Nery that if he's victorious, if they match up next, is this the new Luis Nery?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it through the 122-pound fights that we're seeing so far, we've already seen 2 in the books. Third is almost in the books. If you're Brandon Figueroa, you have to be thinking to yourself, I look like the best 122-pounder tonight so far. Nery can obviously change that narrative. Still 5 rounds to go, but
I think, though, that Nery is focused more on his boxing and showcasing his pure boxing ability. Instead of going ahead and just after the midway point of the 8th, instead of steamrolling someone and being quote-unquote a calculated brawler, I think he wants to showcase his boxing skill, and tonight he's been able to do that against Aaron Alameda.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. And like you said, we don't know what the strategy was coming into this fight for Nery. Maybe it was, you know, we want to show everyone our boxing skills. We know Alameda is a guy that is pretty technical, has solid defense.
Here we are, a minute left in round number 8.
We want to show everyone we can beat a fighter like that.
Under a minute left here in the 8th. And when we were extolling those words of praise upon Aaron Alameda, we were doing it because we saw Alameda, we thought, at least I thought, in the first few rounds, that Nery was being not as aggressive because of what Alameda was, you know, doing when it comes to his boxing and his defense and his feints. As I look at it now and I look at the approach by Nery, I think it's more so, it's a combination of both, but more so Nery is focused on showcasing his boxing skill.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. And, you know, as this fight's going on, and then we see a nice explosion from Nery. So he's able to pop Alameda with the jab.
Yes.
We're used to seeing Nery explosive pretty much after the first or second round, but now he's picking when he's explosive and when he unloads. We are 2/3 of the way done in this super bantamweight world title matchup.
Blue corner here, stand by. Blue corner.
Estamos en otra sin empate. Pero hay que presionar más, güey. Hay que presionar más. ¿Vale? Hay que presionar más la pelea, güey. Hay que mover la cintura. Está en buena condición, güey. Está en más condición para tirar más golpes, güey. Mueva la cintura, no que estés dejando manipular por el jab, güey. Está trabajando con el jab y la luna no métetele, y ya cuando estés adentro, métele las combinaciones fuertes.
I want you to get in combinations, strong combinations here.
¿Sale?
De un, no nomás uno. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Always gives me more confidence when one of the top trainers agrees with her that he wants to see more pressure now from Luis Nery.
Coming up on the 9th round, this one's scheduled for 12 between Luis Nery and Aaron Alameda. Stiff jab by
what do you read
Luis
into that
Nery.
when a fighter at this stage asks a question like that?
You see Nery just popping up, not really with anything powerful, but he's just peppering Alameda with shots. Credit to Alameda, he's had a really good defense in this fight against Nery. Really hasn't allowed Nery to land anything of substance really clean on him.
And definitely more active, but Alameda's jab is still there.
I think Nery is working more so on, as I mentioned, his boxing, and you know, I'm shocked more than anybody that he isn't going to his old ways. But again, Reynoso might have him focused on, you know what, tonight you're going to box. Some guys do that when it comes to bringing on new fighters and trying to refine their ability.
Mentioned Nery's been down 3 times.
It also allows a guy like Eddie also to see what he has and gives him a full picture, because if Eddie were to just knock out Alameda in
what would you learn?
2-3 rounds, I mean, yes, that's wonderful, and I think every fighter will take that.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, there's nothing wrong with that,
no,
but I mean,
but as a trainer, as a trainer, you know, really don't have much to go off of.
Well, during, as we await the super welterweight unification matchup, I guess the selfish part of me would like to see an abrupt finish one way or the other.
And of course, too, there you go. That's a nice shot.
Here's Nery. This is the Luis Nery that we thought. He was coming forward, throwing punches, winging to the body, throwing them at his head.
Sometimes we see with a lot of guys that are knockout artists like a Nery, when that knockout isn't coming and isn't there, it was a fantastic shot by Alameda that left cross.
Probably the best punch of the fight from Alameda.
But like I was saying, you know, with knockout artists, those knockout shots aren't coming. There's not many available. So many guys will get frustrated, and we really haven't seen that frustration set in with Nery. He's been calm, cool, and collected. And like you said, he's continuing to box. And that's a huge component of maybe the maturity and even just the direction he has under Eddie Reynoso.
Le mete la izquierda. Esa cuando se mete, no le gusta abajo. Él nomás está tirando los volados. Sí, no se te olvide el jab. Pero cuando tires el jab, ten cuidado con el volado que te va a tirar. ¿Entiendes? Un poquito más al cuerpo. Ya viene el 10. ¿Quieres ser campeón del mundo? Hazlo por tu familia, man. ¿Entiendes? Vámonos. Hazlo por tu familia, man. Tú. Vamos entrenando muy duro para esta pelea. Y ese güey no nos va a chingar. Así mero. Si ese jab y un poquito más al cuerpo. Cuidado con el volado nomás. ¿Entiendes? Ese jab sigue papi. Vamos, respire. Respira. Otra vez. Respire. Buen trabajo.
Coming up on the 10th round, this one is scheduled for 12.
Alameda sees round number 10 against Luis Nery.
Luis Nery, Aaron Alameda.
At 122 pounds.
This is for the WBC Super Bantamweight Championship title here at 122. Luis Nery and Aaron Alameda coming up next. Super welterweight unification between Jason Rosario and Jermell Charlo. Both men warming up in the dressing room. There's a straight left by Aaron Alameda.
Then he got a little bit lazy there with his hands down.
Well, he literally left his chin exposed, and Alameda took advantage of it.
One would think he would
jab by Luis Nery. Again, I know that he's probably comfortably ahead on the scorecards, but I am perplexed at the performance that we're seeing by Nery.
At this stage,
he doesn't look bad, but he doesn't look like he's like a completely different fighter.
Sometimes as a fighter, you just have to take what's there. You can't really force something to happen that really isn't there. And now you got to give credit to Alameda. His defense has been phenomenal. He's used a really nice jab.
Good feints. He's big, strong, tough.
Yeah, he's kept Nery at bay. He really hasn't allowed him to get too much on the inside. So,
do you think that Alameda heard the chatter from, the odds makers and media members that Nery was going to steamroll him, knock him out, et cetera, et cetera? Do you think that he took that to heart?
Oh, I'm sure he did. I don't think any fighter takes any sort of disrespect. Yeah, exactly. It's something that it's a mental note in your head, and you always want to prove the doubters wrong. I mean, look at what people were saying about Jermell Charlo. He hasn't fought anyone. He's not one of the best in the division. He
put on a great performance tonight.
Exactly, and he takes note, as do other big fighters. So I'm sure Alameda has heard the critics and seen what people have said. Jason Rosario, who we're seeing the next fight, he knew he was a 30-to-1 underdog against Julian Williams.
He came into that fight in Philadelphia with a chip on his shoulder, and he used it much to his benefit. He shocked everybody, especially those in the city of brotherly love.
Beautiful profile. I think there's a little blood coming from the nose of Nery. I don't know.
I believe so. Final moments of the 10th.
Alameda, and we are coming down to the final 6 minutes of this fight.
That ends the 10th.
Ready to replay it.
Mira, los grandes peleadores, güey, son los que dan las peleas y le echan huevos para ganar los títulos, ¿eh? Tú eres mejor peleador que él, cabrón.
You're a better fighter than him, man.
Faltan
Come
3
on.
rounds. Son los de campeonato. ¿Estás
This is
cansado?
for the
¿Estás
championship.
cansado? ¿Eh? Agarra aire, relájate. Ciérrate, agarra aire.
And here's some of the work from the 10th. Good left to the body by Alameda, followed by a right hook. Well, when you heard Eddie Reynoso is not happy with Luis Nery, he goes, "What are you doing? This is for the world title. Come on." I mean, so we thought midway through this fight that it was Reynoso who was maybe having Nery box and stuff, but I think it's the fact that now he's telling him, all right, or he might have been doing it all along, that what are you doing? You're letting this guy hang around for no reason. This is for the world title.
Yeah, it just seems like it's been, like you said, we thought it was, you know, he was trying to box with Alameda and trying to make it a technical match, but the reaction of Reynoso, that hasn't been the case, and it seems like he's more disappointed in the lackluster effort from Nery in this one. And you know what, sometimes style, that's why they say styles make fights, and this might just be a bad style for Nery in Alameda.
Could it be that Nery overlooked Alameda, thought that he was going to be able to do whatever he wanted? That's why he looks so unmotivated, because when I look at him, he's not losing the fight, but this seems like a very kind of an unmotivated Luis Nery.
Yeah, you know what, that happens sometimes in boxing. You're a guy that has certain standards of yourself, and you go into a fight looking to fight those guys with those same standards at that same level as you would when you're going up against a guy that you don't consider to be at that level. You sometimes will fight down.
Yeah, sometimes the juices don't get flowing. The adrenaline isn't pumping as heavy when you're fighting someone who you feel poses no imminent danger to you. And also, I wonder with Nery, with no fans being in attendance, this guy loves fighting in front of big crowds. He fought in front of nearly 50,000 fans at AT&T Stadium. He fought in front of 15,000 fans at the MGM Grand Garden Arena against Juan Carlos Payano. Do you think it could be the fact that the fans aren't here due to COVID-19?
And of course, I think some fighters, it doesn't matter what they fight. Other fighters, you know, and we've seen that across all sports where athletes just don't perform as well as they are because of this COVID situation and the fact that there's no fans, and a lot of athletes feed off the fans. And Nery might be one of those guys. As you said, he's been in a lot of big venues, a lot of marquee fights.
Look, he was public enemy #1 when he went over to Japan and beat Shinsuke Yamanaka. That place was sold out. 50,000 fans going crazy. You know, half of them were of Mexican descent at AT&T Stadium. Looked amazing against Joe Arroyo. You know, the MGM Grand has unbelievable fans in Las Vegas, so maybe the juices aren't flowing as much for Luis Nery tonight. I'm not saying he's losing, I have him winning comfortably, but still.
Yeah, if you look at Alameda, defensively he's been fantastic. Offensively, other than the jab, really hasn't landed anything of substance. And as you see, Nery, he's really starting to pick up the pace a little bit towards that later half of this round.
Final moments of the 11th round. We got 3 more minutes remaining. Big straight left that backed up Aaron Alameda.
Quiero que este round suelta más, respira más, otra vez, anda. Este último round.
Last round, come on.
Come on, man. Hazlo por tu familia, man. Va a ser campeón del mundo, ¿eh? Este va a venir con todo, pero tira todo volado. Ese güey no tiene nada, está cansado. ¿Qué te va a hacer?
A ver.
Hey, el jab y en medio el cuerpo, ¿eh?
Ese es el campeonato este.
To the middle part of the chest, world title.
Pone la grasa. Gracias. Siéntate poquito. Es el último round, es en el campeonato. Ya estaba corriendo ahorita el cabrón. Mueve la cintura todo él. Moviendo la cintura sin que coma.
Move your body.
Mueve, cabrón. Mueve la cintura.
Let's go.
Cerradito. Sin
trying to rally.
Eddie Reynoso trying to give some words of encouragement to Luis Nery. We'll see if Nery will come out motivated here in the 12th and final round.
To walk out of the fight sphere undefeated.
Right hook by Alameda.
Nery punted away on the body of Alameda. There's an overhand left. Now here's Luis Nery that we thought we were going to see, and Nery's got, I thought he had Alameda hurt, may have been off balance.
I think it was a slip. I don't think that was a punch, but either way, we are seeing a much better version right here in this final round. It's Nery. You can see Nery's just walking Alameda down.
But now this is the Luis Nery that we all thought we were going to see.
He's almost walking through Alameda right now. There you see Alameda finally throwing the jab.
There's a right to the body by Aaron Alameda.
What we expected, and we are getting it.
Luis Nery, this is the Luis Nery we thought we were going to see all along. The seek and destroy, the Terminator, like a right to the body by Nery.
Yeah, it seems like whatever game plan that he had, he just kind of threw it out the middle for this final round, and it just let his hands go.
A couple of straight laughs. Alameda might be just trying to survive.
His ring smarts by circling away, separating himself from him.
I think this is a statement round for Nery, kind of
saying, okay, the old Nery's back.
Not only that, but just letting Alameda know, like, okay, you fought a good fight, but there's levels to this. This is to quote the great Leonard Ellerby, you know, let them know that this is a different class.
Well, I think he's proven that here in the 12th and final round. It is Luis Nery.
Right hook by Alameda. Able to flip that a little bit.
Final 30+ seconds. Double right hook to the body by Nery. Both men unbeaten. Someone's got to go. We'll see if Nery will cruise to victory, or if Alameda. See what happens with the scorecards. But Luis Nery with a straight left, smack it away upon Aaron Alameda. And that brings an end to the fight. Luis Nery raising his hand in victory. I think he should be in line to a unanimous decision victory.
Credit Alameda, really made Nery work throughout that entire fight. Made it difficult for Nery to land anything clean up until the final 2 rounds. And even then, Alameda proved that, you know, he's a tough competitor. He's a guy.
Sorry about that, Miguel. Yeah. Punched at numbers 180 of 791 for Nery. For Alameda, 177 of 832. Body shots landed 59 for Nery, just 19 for Alameda. Headshots 121 for Nery, 159 for Alameda. Total punches landed 180 and 177 for Alameda, 180 for Luis Nery. But I thought Nery controlled the fight and thus should be given the unanimous decision victory.
It was definitely a weird performance by Nery. As we saw in the corner, I don't think his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, was too happy.
Pleased.
Yeah, exactly. Was too happy with the way Nery fought this one. But again, if it ends up being what we think it's going to be, a W is a W.
Move on.
You move on, and like we said, styles make fights. Sometimes a guy's styles just doesn't coincide with how you fight. And you just gotta take it for what it is get the victory and move on, like you said.
I think it's a foregone conclusion, though, that if Nery's victorious, if he fights Brandon Figueroa is going to make him fight. That's no doubt about it.
Well, sign me up for that fight. I can't wait for that one. Hopefully they do make that fight, or who knows, maybe Danny Roman wants a shot at, I've heard Danny Roman wants a shot at Nery as well, or if he wants to go get his belts. But either way, I mean, there's so many fun matchups in this division, and it was a good cap-off to the 3 fights we had in the 122-pound division we had tonight.
That was an interesting matchup. Would I say it was the most entertaining? No, but you know what? Luis Nery, and we go to...
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we go to the scorecards. Here are the score totals. Judge at ringside, Julie Letterman scores about 115 to 113. Judge Tom Carasone scores at 116 to 112. And Don Ackerman sees it 118 to 110, all three in favor of the winner. And he is now the WBC Super Bantamweight Champion of the World, Luis Pantera Nery.
Luis Nery getting the victory by unanimous decision across the board. Well, that just goes in further as what we thought all along, as Nery elevates his record to 31-0 with 24 knockouts.